Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another Incursio the Gamer Dungeons & Dragons quick build video. Today we have with us Bari, the Knight of the White Moon. Now, spoilers ahead, if you have not played Limbus Company Canto 7, the dream ending, please come back another time. But if you've already played or do not plan on playing, feel free to stay and check out this boss build. Now, of course, before the Limbus Company overview, I would like to apologize. It's been 2 weeks. I'm locking in college, but do not worry, I'll make Lei Heng and Jiachu down the line. Now, of course, let's talk about her Limbus build instead of her D&D build real quick. She is, of course, a fixer, and being the Knight of the White Moon, also known as the Princess of the White Moon, I believe, in folktale, she is immortal, presumably. She spent 200 years of her time helping Sancho become the Don Quixote we all know and love today, as well as spreading tales of valiant fixers to Don Quixote and Sancho in La Mancha land 200 years prior. Now, of course, she, being a fixer, wields weapons, 2 very nice swords, and also a large compound bow. She's very cool, very awesome. I love her design, I love her character. I want to see a little more of her, and I'm assuming she's part of Damien's group, considering she has that blue design. Also, Sanson. But anyways. Now, Bari, the Knight of the White Moon, let's get into the D&D build. Armor class 20, medium, humanoid, lawful, neutral, I presume. Padded armor, because I don't really see her wearing any metal. She is wearing... She's got that drip, basically, you know. Hit points 624. It is a lot less than Don Quixote's 800, but that's perfectly fine because he can regenerate. She not so much, or we'll see. Walking speed 60 feet. Now for the stats. Now, before we go to the stats, let's talk about challenge rating. I figured 22 is a good amount. People have been saying that challenge rating actually does matter, so you know I tried to do a little bit of math. She would pose quite the threat to a party of level 20 players. But with these stats, if you want to go on a maybe stat budget, I would probably say Dex Con would be your highest stats with Strength following. But if not, if you want to go with the stats that are presented here, here's what I suggest. 20 Strength, 27 Dex, 26 Con, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma can be a little lower. For saving throws, you have Dex, Con, and Wisdom. For skills, you have Acrobatics, Athletics, History, Insight. Some of these are, of course, proficiencies. Some of these are, of course, expertise. And for resistances, you have Force, Necrotic, Piercing in general, so magical piercing as well, and the Bludgeoning, Piercing, Slashing from non-magical attacks. Immune to radiant damage. I figured the moon would be radiant damage in some form or way. Conditioned immunities, Charmed, Exhausted, and Petrified, and senses Dark Vision 60 feet, Passive Perception 21. Understands all spoken languages and sign language, similar to Don Quixote. Now, of course, let us talk about the traits. You have your legendary resistance, of course, 3 a day, and you have dream telling. She's a storyteller to Don Quixote and Sancho. She's immune to the charm condition. Additionally, after conversing with opponent after combat, she gains advantage on the persuasion roll, more specifically because of those 3 days of combat over and over and over again with Don Quixote, and she did manage to turn him. But then again, he really was in the need of a dream to not constantly be drinking blood. So there is that. The Knight of the White Moon, she gains resistance to all non-magical attacks, magical piercing, necrotic, and force, immune to radiant damage. Blessing of the Moon, she has been granted the blessing and curse of the moon. This gives her advantage on wisdom and charisma saving throws. However, she is not able to improve her physical state. Her growth is forever stagnant, and her maximal potential is capped, meaning her stats cannot go up from here. Except for, you know, I guess actions, bonus actions, and reactions that can temporarily increase her, like AC or damage. But anyways, Honorable Duel. I liked making this one. There's a little bit of homebrew in here, as you guys can very clearly see. But when fighting only one opponent in a duel, she can choose to make it a duel. Immunity to Radiant drops to resistance, and her temporary HP pool, which she now gains, is equal to twice the maximum of her opponent's. When the opponent drops to 0, they are revived to 1 HP, and when she's dropped to 0, combat ends, she forfeits the duel and her HP returns to normal, with the damage already being dealt. This is, I suppose, a little bit of a equalizer. Even though Lei Heng is the one who procced that equalizer thing where Dante was able to apply, I guess, defense and offense level up equivalent to the level difference, I figure that, you know, if she's fighting someone weaker than her, she's going to make it an honorable duel. This is, I just really like this little trait, because say you're fighting like a level 14 player with this, you're going to want her HP to not be 600. Close match, of course, demonstrated in her 3-day and night-long duel with Don Quixote, she excels in combat. Starting from the 4th turn of combat, she has an additional +5 to all attack rolls. Honorable Fixer, when she hits 100 HP for the first time, her attack pattern disappears and she can start making 3 melee attacks, or 2 melee attacks and 1 arrow attack, or 2 arrow attacks. You guys will see that in the actions later. Master of Weapons, she basically gains proficiency with any weapon she sets her hands on, especially with that immortality. She has all that time to practice. And Regenerative Moonlight, a little bit of healing. As the Knight of the White Moon, she has a certain unknown level of immortality. Basically, she regains 25 HP at the beginning of each of her turns, so long as she has at least 1 HP. Additionally, she is immune to the exhausted and petrified conditions. Now, of course, for our actions, she has 3 attack patterns, which repeat, so turn 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but at turn 4, it disappears. So, pretty much, it's Dragon of the Spring, Lotus in Autumn. Dragon of the Spring, Lotus in Autumn, Faint Trace, Dragon of the Spring or Lotus in Autumn, Faint Trace, and then Pallid Trace. Pallid Trace, of course, being the most powerful of them, only appears once, but upon the 4th turn hitting, she can use whatever moves she wants and deems necessary in the moment. So, Dragon of the Spring, plus 9 to hit, it is 19 slashing damage, and a con 17 saving throw, or have their movement speed halved until the beginning of their next turn. This stacks. So if you have 40 movement speed, you can go to 20, go to 10, go to 5, etc., etc. Lotus in the Autumn, plus 12 to hit, but 15 slashing damage. They must make a strength 17 or be knocked prone. Faint Trace, plus 13 to hit, it is 26 slashing damage, and she may choose to roll with disadvantage. If the attack still hits, she adds an additional plus 10 force damage. And lastly, Pallid Trace. It is plus 15 to hit and 30 slashing damage. She can choose to roll with a minus 5 modifier, so it'll be a plus 10 to hit instead. And if it hits anyways, she deals an extra 14 radiant damage. That is her Dex and Wisdom modifier added together. I figured it would be a nice little addition. So those are her melee attacks, the ones that she makes with her longsword and, I guess, energy sword. For her arrow, this one can only be used after the 4th turn. It is a ranged weapon attack, plus 20 to hit, 41 points of piercing damage, and 15 points of radiant damage. When it hits, the piercing resistance of the enemy is lowered to nothing if they are resistant, but immunities, it keeps immune until the beginning of their next turn. Now, bonus actions, you have Blue Arrow, Red Arrow, and Black Arrow. Blue Arrow is standard, plus 12 to hit, it is 26 piercing damage. Red Arrow, it is a recharge, Dex saving throw 21, failed save, they take 35 radiant damage, and knocked prone on a failed save. On a successful save, they take half the damage, of course. For Black Arrow, recharge 5 to 6, oh wait, no, never mind. On a success, they take no damage, my bad. It's Black Arrow, they take half damage. Black Arrow, it is also a recharge 60-foot cone instead of a line. It is Dex saving throw 21, of course. On a failed save, they take 32 psychic damage, and if the arrow hits, they must make an additional Wisdom saving throw 21 and disadvantage on all attacks until the beginning of until the beginning of their next turn. And of course, half damage on a successful save. Black Arrow is basically, I would consider maybe just a volley of arrows. So there you go. For reactions, you have Mirror of Water. When targeted by a spell or a range attack, so a spell attack like, say, Firebolt, she temporarily raises her AC to 24. If the attack misses, after which the attack is reflected, dealing half damage to her opponent instead. That is nice. A little bit of stuff for spells. And now, Electron Accelerator Rail Activation. If the opponent rolls to hit with a melee attack, she can make a Blue Arrow, Red Arrow, or Black Arrow attack against them. If they both fail to recharge, and you don't want to make a Blue Arrow attack, then you can choose to make a Dragon with a Spring attack instead, but make it at disadvantage. Now, of course, you have legendary actions. Bari has 3 legendary actions. She regains all points at the beginning of her next turn. Quick Slashes cost 1. She makes either a Dragon in the Spring or Lotus in Autumn attack. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, just a melee attack. For Electron Accelerator Rail Activation, costs 2 actions. She ignores the recharge mechanic and makes either a Red Arrow or Black Arrow attack against her opponent. However, her AC drops from 20 to 17 until the start of her next turn. And lastly, Arrow Burst. This one you're going to be using a little more if you are in mob fights with a lot of players. Bari launches a rain of arrows upon her foes. All creatures must make a Dex 21 or take 36 piercing damage, half as much on a successful save. This costs all 3 actions, however, so use it wisely. For, of course, description, tall woman with pale skin and just a blue design overall. She carries 2 swords, the long sword and the more modern, I suppose, energy sword, and the large compound bow. I love the compound bow, to be honest. It is amazing. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is Bari, the Knight of the White Moon. An overall summary, of course, a TLDR, overall review, I suppose. would be that she has a lot of resistances, she has a lot of saves, but where she mostly lies is pretty much her versatility. She is good at attacking, she heals a little bit, she has good defenses, she can raise that defense, lower the defense for more attack. She is the all-rounder, the jack of all trades, essentially. This is why she was able to fight Don Quixote so well. Where he was using his lance and fighting very strength-oriented, she had multiple methods of defense and counterattack, not just normal attack. This, therefore, yeah, she's very, very powerful. Now, of course, if you want to fight lower level players, for example, maybe a group of level 12 players, you can lower the damage if you want. I remember my Don Quixote boss, he was able to shoot out 60 damage in one attack, but of course, with Bari being able to regenerate a little bit each turn and increase her AC and having greatness, advantage on saving throws, she's able to come back from a lot of this. And of course, with her attacks, Don Quixote can also heal, apply the bleed condition, etc., etc. These bosses fight well against each other, and me personally, I say she would be a good fight, Bari would be a good fight, against a group of level 16 to 20 players. About 4 of them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, of course, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching this one, and yeah, I will try to get more videos out more frequently. I apologize for all this delay, all this time. I hope you all have a wonderful one, and that'll be it. Goodbye, and good night.